letting go of a lot of things, which was also really uncomfortable and painful. So I think it's when you're in the middle of that transition where it's like things are falling away, but nothing's coming in yet. And not only do I not know what it is or what I'm asking to be called in, and I can't see it, but you're just in this kind of vast space of not knowing, of the unknown. And like that's a really scary place to be, when you don't know when the safety net or that comfort's coming back to catch you. But there's a quote that I read a really long time ago that says, like, when everything is unknown, everything is possible. And so I think there is that sense of, you know, sometimes you need to clear the garden in order for the, you know, new crop to kind of grow, and just like trusting in the process. And I think for me, you know, this recent event is probably the third time that I've gone through that collapse. And even though I know it was like, I know I'm about to climb a mountain and it's going to be like some tears and it's going to be hard, and you know, at the end of it I'm not going to be the same person, and I will have reached a new point of meaning in my life where there's so much richness. And so that's the thing, that in those moments at night when you're like, oh my God, just someone help me, it keeps you moving forward. You know, when I used to think about being back in London, when all I wanted was like, I just want to be in nature and with community and music, and then flash forward 3 years and I'm having that same kind of moment of like, what am I doing? But I'm sat in this pine forest, like, you know, looking out at my van and watching the sunset with an ocean view and the birds calling around me and a fire being lit and friends are due to arrive shortly. And it's like, this was what I wished for. And like all of that change and shift over the last 3 years, it's got me here. And like now I have a life that's beautiful, and like, and that can't be taken away, because it's like I went through that journey and untreaded and regrew and all the rest of it to get here. And it's like, and that's what I'm about to start again. And so I think it's just trusting in that kind of evolution process, that at the end of it there will be more meaning and joy.
Here's what's coming up next on the Holo Movement Purpose Lab. Hello, my name is Senka Caro. I'm founder of LightNet, and my passion and purpose is to make the impossible possible. I am here today with Sofia Sarkar, who I sat down with in the heart of the world in Colombia. She is originally from London, but lives now in Portugal, where we're going to be with the Holo Movement Wave in Lisbon at the end of May. So look, it even is reminding us to go and check that out. It is going to be right on the ocean, and we're going to have Lynn McTaggart, Lynn Twist, my heroes there, along with amazing people. I'm going to be doing spoon bending with Scarlett Lewis. It's going to be really amazing to see everybody.
It probably all started about 8 years ago. I used to work in advertising, and you know, I was doing behavior change work. So there was lots of campaigns that were going well. And this guy turned around and said to me like, oh, okay, so, you know, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you like doing? And I was like, I love art and I love dancing. And then I kind of was like, I don't actually remember the last time I did any of those things. Like, work had become so much like my life, and I was passionate and I loved it, but it was like I'd kind of was losing my sense of self within it. And so it sent me on this journey of like I went cliche, go traveling, and try and find out, you know, what it was I was doing, and, you know, essentially doing something impactful, doing something that involved ideas, you know, was that kind of red thread. And so up until that was kind of an evolving journey of just trying different stuff. But then in 2021, I was stuck in London, pretty unhappy, just being like, okay, like I'm kind of here, I'm doing this interesting like purpose consulting stuff, like interesting projects, but you know, something's also not quite feeling right. And my whole life over the space of like 5 weeks just blew up. So like my dad went into hospital with a heart attack, one of my best friends died, I broke up with my partner, like my sister had a baby and there was like complications with us having to help look after him. Like my grandparents sold their house because my grandfather had recently just passed away, which I was meant to be living in. Like it was literally like one thing. I lost my job, like every week. It was just like things that normally happen like once in a lifetime. And I got to the end of the 6 weeks and was just like, I don't know if I can take anymore. Like I was holding on by a thread, like my mental health. And I had been building a van during this time because I'd come back and got stuck in lockdown and was just, not wanting to do the whole mortgage thing. So anyway, the van was ready and I was just like, I can't be here anymore. Like there was nothing here for me in England anymore. Like I love my family, but I have to find my path. And so I took the van, and I'd always been drawn to Lisbon. Like I was always like, that's a city I could live in. And it just so happened that I had, over the last 10 years, passed through this little fisherman's town called Ericeira. And I didn't really know, I just kind of went there for the day because it was like en route to somewhere else. And it just so happens that every time I'd gone, I'd seen this astrologer who gave me these really interesting readings. And as a result of seeing her, I ended up making some pretty significant choices. One of which was when I quit my job in advertising overnight basically. I was on the trajectory for like 30 under 30s and, CEO kind of pathway. And I just was like, no, I can't do this anymore. And I walked in the next day and just gave my notice and was like, I'm out. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I can't. And that was what sent the first leap of going on traveling. So anyway, I was like, that town was pretty nice, that place that I just stopped in. It seems it's by the beach, it's outside the city, I could probably chill there. So anyway, I drove to Portugal, and the minute I got there, my whole body was just like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. And I was just so calm. And I guess what unfolded after that was like me really feeling like for the first time ever, I really belonged somewhere. And I was meeting all of these people that are like really reevaluating how we live and our way of life. And so as I arrived in Portugal and I started to kind of settle down, I was then starting this new innovation consultancy, and I was also then starting to being opened up to new ideas, I guess. Like I was finding my way into regeneration, having been in a sustainable context and realizing like this isn't really right. But then starting also to go through like, going to ecstatic dances and being in like eco communities and co-living and just really kind of seeing like different ways that people wanted to live. Which alongside all of this, I then went to a festival and met this guy, as you do, and had this like wild like telepathic connection with him, and was just like, after we left, I was just like, I need to understand this about myself. Like I've literally been spending my whole life just saying like these weird coincidences, like I'd have dreams and they'd come true, or like I'd guess someone's like how many brothers and sisters and what their family dynamics were when they were kids, so I'd just guess it. And anyway, it sent me on this whole pathway of understanding energy and seeing energy workers and healers and shamanic retreats and firewalking, and it was just like one thing after the other, and I was like, oh my god, the cosmic kind of creations, like bloody wild and like so much fun. And as I was doing all of that inner work and starting to understand stuff, it was just like really shifting my perspective, whilst at the same time of doing this kind of innovation stuff for big multinational corporates, and starting to see how the three threads of regeneration, spirituality and technology were starting to come together with this new way of being. Alongside which, through some of this journey, I started to hear about this prophecy. And so Virgilio, who runs Ecstatic Portugal, was sharing at this 5-day ecstatic event I went to, that there is a prophecy in Portugal called the Fifth Kingdom, which has been around it was first prophesied around 300 years ago and multiple times since, which talks of the day the child rules, prisoners are freed, and everything is shared. And what that is understood is that when that happens, is that a new empire will be born. However, it won't be a physical empire, but a spiritual one. And so originally, the Portuguese thought it was like this child king that was coming to them. And now what's understood is that the child rules is your essence. It's the inner child. It's you in all of your joy and your richness. Everything is, prisoners are freed is around meeting your shadows. It's about integrating them, realizing how your shadows are actually a tool for growth. It's about finding that in each other and seeing each other as that mirror. And then everything is shared as obviously as it is in the tin. So understanding this, I was this, and hearing about, the Kogis talk about 2026, like all these different lineages. It's like, however you want to look at it, the great turning, as it's also called, is approaching, and it's happening. 2026 is going to be the year that it will start to happen.
You can go to holomovement.net/wave to join us in Lisbon for spoon bending and more. For more, watch the full episode, which will be aired on Monday. Or you can find this story on our podcast, Awaken Your Purpose. To find your passion and purpose, join us at holomovement.net/purpose.